Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be making a Naphthaleneacetic Acid Solution and a control solution for my algae experiment. What I'm really going to be doing is explaining exactly what the algae experiment is that I'm going to be doing while I do this. Now first, Naphthaleneacetic acid is a synthetic version of indole acetic acid, which is a plant hormone that promotes growth, the direction of growth as well of plants. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dissolve it in a 50 milliliter solution of sodium hydroxide. But also what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what the experiment I'm doing is. A little backstory, there are a couple researchers in India who did a study on indole acetic acid's effect on algae growth, on spirulina algae growth, and they found that it can be used as essentially as a way to promote the growth of the algae, essentially. Both experiments were done for about a month, I believe 20 days, and the results were based on cultivation, essentially. Essentially, the study was based on the idea of cultivating spirulina for commercial purposes, which, a little backstory on spirulina, it's used for biofuels. It's also used as nutritional supplements. It's actually very high in nutrition. So of course the study was focused on on increasing production in farming, in spirulina farming. However, there were some negative effects of the treatment of the spirulina in the with the hormone. And by negative, I don't mean negative in terms of health benefits or anything like that. I mean in terms of the health of the actual spirulina. There were essentially morphological issues, which is just a fancy way of saying morphological issues is a fancy way of saying there are issues with the way it grew. And the studies were done over the span of a month, and I want to see what the effects are to the spirulina if the inoculation of hormones to the spirulina occurred over a 3-month period, essentially giving it enough time for many generations of spirulina to grow. And the idea is to see if there's any negative effects on the spirulina themselves. And it could be anything. Perhaps they become resistant to the hormone. That could be a possibility. Or the morphological problems that were seen in the prior study, perhaps that could actually become permanent, to where even without the treatment of the spirulina with the hormone, perhaps you still see some kind of issue that perhaps could cause maybe a collapse in the strain of spirulina that you're using, and maybe there's an effect that would cause long-term issues that would make it harder to grow the spirulina. This is something I saw while doing essentially the review of the literature. Was there really wasn't much information on the long-term effects of these extra doses of plant hormones on the spirulina. So that's essentially what my aim is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use both indole acetic acid, Naphthaleneacetic acid, and then I'm going to have a control group. And the idea is I'm going to subject them to the hormone treatment for 3 months. And I'm going to see if after 3 months there are any issues that don't go away once the treatment is over. The main reason why I want to do the study isn't so much for the commercial benefits or the commercial reasons. It's essentially because I want to see for example, what happens if you cultivate this spirulina over the span of, years, and there's some kind of change or issue that could potentially, if this spirulina gets out into the general waterways, could it in some way cause environmental issues because of the changes that have occurred? Could they essentially overtake a population of other algae? Now, this stuff is a lot like indole acetic acid in that it needs to be in a 14 pH environment. Now, interestingly, this stuff actually sinks to the bottom rather than floating to the top. Now I'm going to use the vortex mixer. What I'm waiting for is my algae culture to get to 30 million. And the reason for that is so that I can separate them into 3 batches of 10 million. And that'll be like the baseline start. And then I'll grow them from there. Now what I got to do is add 25 milliliters of distilled water. Mix these again. Now this is the indole acetic acid, or the naphthaleneacetic acid. And then this one is the control, just sodium hydroxide. Essentially all I did was I diluted it in half. Perfect. So that's it for this video. Make sure to hit the like and button and subscribe if you want to follow my research. Thank you.